All right, this is reciprocal functions part 1. And first of all, before we even start, let's just think what is a reciprocal. So if we take a number like 2, the reciprocal of 2 is to basically just flip that over and to say, well, that would be 1 over 2. Or similarly, if maybe you had a fraction, maybe you had 2/3, the reciprocal would be 3 over 2. So it's a matter of just flipping that stuff over. Okay, how is this going to be affecting graphs? Well, let me just give you the big picture here. What we're going to be doing is taking a situation where we have a function like y equals f of x, and we're going to be attempting to draw the reciprocal function, which is 1 over f of x. Okay. Now, kind of what's going to happen in practice is if you figured out a bunch of points for your original graph, let's just say hypothetically, say you had the point 3, 10, and this is on the original graph of f of x, okay? So this is referring to that graph. What would that look like on this graph over here? Well, the way it would look is when x is 3, you're now going to take this y value and you're going to do this to it. You're going to flip it over. So the y value would become 1 over 10. Okay? And that's what basically would happen to all the points. If you had a point over here, maybe that looked like this. Maybe you had, say, -1, -4. Okay? The new version of that point is -1, -1/4. Okay? You'll notice that these y values, if they're positive, they stay positive. If they're negative, they stay negative. You know, we're not changing the signs. This is not absolute value stuff. All we're doing is reciprocating the y values, and that becomes our new reciprocal graph. Okay? So, why don't we get the grid up here and take a little look at a very nice, simple function and see if we can analyze it. So I'm going to take a line, and I'm going to graph a nice friendly line that probably we know pretty well. See if I can draw it right here. So it might look something like this. Okay. Yeah, that should do it. So let's say we take this as the line. Oops. There we go. The line, which goes forever, both directions, and this is actually the line y equals x. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to graph right on top of this grid the graph y equals, and we're going to reciprocate x, so it's going to be 1 over x. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to get some old points in a table of values, just enough to get a feel for it, and then we're going to get some new points in this second table of values, and then we're going to plot them and see what the graph looks like. So what are some old points that we got here? Well, let's start down the negatives. How about, well, let's go right down. -2, -2. So there's a pretty good point. Then we have -1, -1. We've got 0, 0. Then we've got 1, 1, 2, 2, and maybe we'll do one more here in the positives, 3, 3. Okay. So what's going to happen here is we're going to reciprocate these y's. So we're going to have the same x's all the way down, and then we're going to have the reciprocals of the y's, and those are going to create the new graph. So what's the reciprocal of -2? -1/2. The reciprocal of -1, well, it's still -1. So this point actually isn't going to change. Now, what about the reciprocal of 0? Actually, I'll get back to that guy. Reciprocal of 1 would be 1. The reciprocal of 2, +1/2. And the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. So these are my new points, all except for this weird one with a y value of 0. But let's plot some of these now and see what kind of graph we're going to get. Now let's see, maybe I'll change colors here. Let's see what kind of color we could do. Maybe red would be a good color for this. Okay. Oops. back to what those points are. Okay, so we have a new point is -2, -0.5. So it's right about there. Then we have the point -1, -1. Well, that point hasn't moved. Then we got this weird thing going on at 0, 0. And then we got the point 1, 1, hasn't moved. Then we've got the point 2, which only goes up 1/2. And then we got the point 3, which goes up about 1/3. Okay, so very strange stuff is going on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in one very bizarre little point just so you can see what's going on, and that is this point here, which on the old graph is -1/2, -1/2. So let's just write that in here, even though it's in red. So -1/2, -1/2. Now what is that point going to do now? Well, what's the reciprocal of -1/2? It's -2. So this point now, which used to be here, is now down at -2. Okay, so I think you can kind of see what's going on, and you can sort of see what's going on here when we tried to take the reciprocal of 0. What you actually get here is an undefined situation, and an undefined situation in the graphing world tends to be a vertical asymptote. So I'm going to draw that in here in red. Okay, you're going to get a vertical asymptote, and then this is what your graph kind of looks like. Okay. And the same thing over here. This side's actually going to go roaring up like so, and then this side down here just keeps getting lower. Okay, so that's what the reciprocal graph looks like. And that's all we're going to do for part 1.